right, so it is National Fire Prevention Week, and here to talk a little bit more is Brad Maggard. He is the City of Ashland Fire Marshal. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we were talking about fires, right? And a second can mean all the difference between life and death, and that's actually one of the themes this year of the campaign, right? It's every second counts, plan 2 ways out. Talk a little bit about that first.
A lot of people die in their homes in house fires. The greatest threat is while you're sleeping at night, and so people become startled and stuff when they wake up and smoke, or sometimes it's too late by the time the smoke gets to them. So you need to have 2 ways out to get out of your home in the event of emergency. Frequently people just automatically think to go out the front door the way they go in and out every day. If that path happens to be blocked by fire, then they don't know what to do and they panic. So the theme this year is to know 2 ways out of your home in case of emergency. Ideally, that's your bedroom door is one option, and then your window is the second option. Make sure that those bedroom windows aren't blocked with furniture. Make sure you're able to open them and everything else. Make sure they're not painted shut and that sort of thing. So just have 2 ways out. Don't always just instinctually go out the front door, and have a plan with your family on what to do in case of emergency. Have a place to meet out in the yard and actually practice that plan once a year at least.
And that's the key, right? It's not just to have a plan, it's to actually put it in place and practice it over and over with the kids too, right?
Yep, absolutely. Actually hit that button on the smoke detector, make it beep, make sure they wake up whenever they hear that, and go outside to the designated spot they're supposed to meet up to make sure everybody's accounted for.
Okay, and so obviously we're talking about the use of fire extinguishers too. I'm going to go ahead and let you light this on fire today, because we're going to do a demonstration for you guys, because so many people say, okay, yeah, I've seen a fire extinguisher, but maybe you haven't necessarily used one before. So we want to show folks exactly how to be able to properly use one, just so you know how to do that in your own home. So we have lit this on fire. Yes, we've used an accelerant just to kind of speed things up here for TV. But okay, here's the extinguisher. Show us how this works.
We'll let this burn for a little bit so it gets going. Here's your fire extinguisher. Everybody should be pretty familiar with them, that sort of thing. You want to make sure the type of fire extinguisher you're using is safe for the fire you're using. This is an ABC fire extinguisher, which means it's good for type A, B, and C fires, which are wood and paper fires, electrical fires, and liquid fuel fires. So it's safe to use on everything. You want to remember the acronym PASS whenever you're using a fire extinguisher, which means to pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep back and forth.
Pass. That's
pull, aim, squeeze, sweep.
And I want to point out before we actually get to this, yes, there are directions on this, but when you're in a situation that could just mean seconds to grabbing this, you're not going to have time to sit down and read the directions. So this is why you want to know how to do this before you ever even get into a situation where you need to use it, right?
Yep. And if you've got a fire extinguisher at home, you want to make sure it's ready to use. Check the gauge on it and make sure the gauge is actually in the green. Over time, they can lose pressure and they won't be effective. So if it's old and the gauge doesn't work, throw it away and buy a new one.
So there is an expiration. That's important to let folks know about. Okay, so how does it work? How do we do this?
Pull the pin just like on a grenade, but don't throw it like a grenade. Pull the pin, throw it aside, aim at the base of the fire, and then squeeze the handle and we'll sweep back and forth.
Okay. Just like that.
You can see. It'll make a little bit of a mess, but your fire will go out.
Right. Okay, so we want to talk about the use of other things like water. Here's a big myth. So if you have a fire going on in your house, maybe let's say it's an electrical fire or a grease fire, that is not the time to use water.
We like to say put a lid on grease fires. If you're cooking and frying a hamburger or bacon, whatever, happens to flare up, a lot of people's instinct is to throw water on it. It'll just spread the fire and make it worse. So put a lid on grease fires. When you're frying, keep the lid there. That'll fit over the top of the pan. Just put the lid on it, turn the heat off, the fire will smother out. For electrical fires, obviously we don't want to throw water on an electrical fire. Just shut the power off to whatever the problem is, shut the breaker off, and usually it'll take care of itself and call the fire department.
All right, since it is, of course, Fire Prevention Week, we want to talk smoke detectors. You brought one out here to demonstrate as well. We usually talk about it during daylight saving time as far as changing the batteries, but how important is this just to have in your house?
If there's one thing you can do to make your home safe, it's to have working smoke detectors. Make sure that they actually work, hit the button on them, make sure it beeps. Just like that. You should change your batteries every time you change your clocks for daylight savings time, or twice a year. They make some smoke detectors now that have a 10-year built-in battery, so you don't have to fool with changing the batteries and anything, and those, we definitely recommend them.
Wow,
But just actually make sure your smoke detectors are up there, make sure they're working. Get up there on the step ladder, hit the button, and make sure it beeps in case you have a fire in your home. Alert you and your family to get out in an emergency.
All very good tips. Things, though, that are important to actually put into practice and to actually do them versus just talking about them. So make sure you go ahead and do that and take care of it at home. Brad, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, Tim, back over to you.